notification of somebody going live right now. So, this is going to be a very deep video. And it's very rare that I do these. I've opened up about some things before, but you've never heard this one. So today my son and I got into an argument. And I couldn't understand why. You know, all I mentioned was that, and this is the hard part. All I mentioned was that I would like to go to their church this Easter Sunday. I said my church will be packed and I would rather be with family at church. I mean, it's Easter Sunday. It's Resurrection Day. And I want to be with family. And then his fiance says, well, you could come, but just know that my best friend and her mom, I invited them to go. They'll be going. And then also my children's grandmother. Once she mentioned the children's grandmother, I backed off. I was just like, okay, never mind then. I will just go to my church. And she's like, well, I mean, you're still welcome to come. I'm just letting you know that they'll be there and I know how you feel about them. And see, there's the thing that I didn't like what she said because I know how you feel about them. And that is, if there's one thing that I really, really hate is to be put in a category and have assumptions brought up about me. How does she know how I feel about them? That is putting the blame on me. That is saying, I know you have a problem with them. How does she know this? And that's one of the things I was trying to explain to her, that I don't have a problem. I have been excluded from them. Whenever you get together with them, I'm not invited. And I understand that this person is your best friend and you're very, very close. You've made that very clear to me. But the other grandmother, and the reason I have a real problem with all of this now is that the other grandmother, she's not very active in the children's lives. She lives here where we live in the next town over, which is only 15 minutes away, or as they say in Texas, a hop, skip, and a jump away. In fact, they used to live near her in her neighborhood. They were just a couple of houses down when they had that 2-story house, which I've put in a video before. They were renting there, but it got too expensive, and that's when I told them, hey, there's availability over here where I live, and now they moved over here, and they're living down a couple of doors down from me. Now, as I mentioned, that other grandmother doesn't do much with the kids, not even that they lived a couple of houses down. I was still having to go over on a daily basis to take care of Emily, the dog. I was there to pick up the kids if I had to with her, or I would take my son to go pick up the kids. I would go pick them up from daycare at times. In other words, whenever they needed me, I was there. And when one of her children's birthdays came up, this was last year in September, the little girls, I went to the party and I had no idea that the other grandmother was going to be there. And I thought, why is she here? And that was just my thought. I didn't say it out loud. If anything, I was telling myself, behave, be nice. And so I waved to her. She didn't acknowledge me. So I thought, oh, maybe she looked some other way or something. So I waved to her again. Still didn't acknowledge me. And at that point, I couldn't even tell if she was still staring at me or not because she was wearing sunglasses. The person next to her was also wearing sunglasses, sitting there like a Kardashian. That was her daughter. And her daughter is an adult. She's married, she's got kids, but, you know, she's one of those that just, they're full of themselves. Neither her or her daughter acknowledged me enough to say hello, at least a wave. So I thought, okay, fine. Now, my son's fiance's friends were both there. She's got two best friends. The one that's going to church and another one that was always over at her house. And that friend used to be her boss, and they remained friends. Now, there have been instances where they've gotten together here on a Friday night. I live just a couple of doors down. If she really wanted me to establish any kind of relationship with them, all she had to do was say, hey, Moon, why don't you come over and hang out with us for a bit? You know, like, we're not doing much, you know, and if you're bored, you know, you can come over, you know, get to know us a little bit better. Whatever works, right? That was never offered to me. So I learned just to deal with it. To me, I got the message very, very clear that I was not a part of her life, that I was not welcomed in her life, and just deal with it. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we were talking earlier today, and she told me that, you know, this grandmother's going to go to the church. And I said, okay, well, never mind then. I'll just go to my church. But thanks anyway, you know. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place because at my church, we already know that the church buddy friend, I don't even know what to call her anymore because I don't even think of her as a friend anymore because of the way she's been treating me lately. See, one of the things about me is that I like stability and I like consistency. And if there's anything that I've learned is that I am surrounded by people that don't have either of that. So upon listening to her talking and telling me all this, I'm like, so what do I do now? Do I go back to my church and take more abuse from that so-called friend and feel so uncomfortable? Or do I go to this other church with my son, his fiance, the other grandmother, her best friend, and her mother? My options don't sound really good, do they? So I'd rather just go to mine. I'll just go to my church. I'd rather be alone there. I've seen many people go to church alone, and they don't seem too bothered with it. And I remember a time when I was going to church alone, not expecting to meet up with anybody. And that was actually so much more peaceful and less drama. But upon having this conversation with her, I let her know how I felt. I told her, you know what? Your former mother-in-law, the kid's grandma, I don't have anything against her other than she just really doesn't like to acknowledge me whenever you have gatherings that she's included in. And I was going to tell her, I don't understand why you even still invite her. Like, why? She's your children's grandmother. She's no longer your mother-in-law. Why are you still including her? But she added that the kids had invited her. I find that hard to believe because the kids, at least around me, they never mention her. They never mention that they miss her. They never mention that they have an actual grandmother that lives 15 minutes away, you know, or that they did something with her, or that she picked them up and they went here and there. So I find it hard to believe that it came out of the kids. Now, my son is okay with this. So again, you know, these are things that I keep my mouth shut about. And so I just told her, look, I don't have anything against her. It's her demeanor towards me that's uncalled for. I don't understand why she acts like that towards me. If she were to talk to me like she talked to me at the dental office, because these former in-laws are the ones that run a dental office, and the grandpa is the dentist that I went to last year. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but anyhow, I just told her I don't have anything against her. She was nice to me at the office. That's what I was going to say. When I was there as a patient, and I was like, wow, what you said about her wasn't even like really true. You know, you talked so bad about her for a while, and I thought, wow, I'm getting a different person over here. She's actually nice. So when things started happening outside the office, I was no longer the patient. I was a threat. At least that's the way she threatened. I mean, that's the way she treated me, as a threat. What are you? What are you doing here? You're not the grandmother. I am, type of thing. She just had very bad vibes. And so while I was telling her this, my son jumps into the conversation and says, well, you're the one that arrived with a bad attitude. Excuse me? What was bad about my attitude? Please explain. Well, you had this look on your face like you didn't even want to be there. Okay, so you're assuming again. Go on. Well, you didn't even say hi to anybody. I said, no, that's bullshit. I said hi to everybody. Everybody was too deep in their conversations because they all know each other. That's not my fault that they didn't take the time to acknowledge me or invite me into their circle. But I did say hello. What else? Well, you always have a problem with the kid's grandma, yada, yada. Oh, I always have a problem? No, I wasn't the one that started this. I never looked at her as a threat. To me, she's no threat. Yes, they have money, and I don't. But I don't see her as a threat. And so he just blew his top, told me that I wasn't invited to the wedding anymore. The wedding is in October on Halloween. And I thought, okay, if that's the way you feel about it, fine. And I told them we were going to contribute closer to the wedding, because the husband and I talked about it. He gave his daughter $200 for her wedding. We were going to give them $200 for their wedding. I know it's not much, but we're not trying to pay for the whole wedding. We're just contributing. They can use that money however they would like, either towards the wedding or for the honeymoon. But $200 to me is very helpful. So after that, they continued to try to tell me how I was the issue, how I had all these problems, and it's always me, 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 me. And where I'm going with this is I finally put my foot down with them and I said, no, you're not going to tell me that I'm the problem, and I don't accept that. You're trying to gaslight me. You are trying to dismiss my feelings and convince me that none of this ever happened, that it's all made up in my mind, and that what I saw or felt at that time was different. And then I continue to tell them that denial, you both denying it, doesn't mean it never happened. It still happened, and it happened to me on several occasions. They didn't know how to respond to that. If anything, his fiance later texted me, and she tried to twist my words and say that I was blaming her all of a sudden. And then I stopped her again. I said, see, this is what I mean by gaslighting. This is the definition of gaslighting, where my feelings don't count, only yours count. And if everything is going good for you, it does not mean that we need to sit here and discuss what made me feel bad. How dare you rain on my parade? Everything's going good for me. I don't feel anything. I don't know why you're complaining, type of thing. Afterwards, she sent me a text prayer. I don't know where she got that prayer from. It looked like she pulled it up from somewhere. It was very lengthy. But all I did was respond with a prayer hands. And I got over it really quick. I didn't hold on to that argument because I just didn't feel peace about holding on to the argument. I did tell the husband about it because he happened to call right after. It's like he knew something was wrong, and he saw that I was upset. He felt that I was upset, and he's decided to pull back now. And he said, you know what? They're not going to get anything then. We won't go to their wedding. They're not going to get anything, so too bad for them. I'm sure that by that point we'll make up, but it's still not going to take away what's been done already and how they haven't taken any accountability for the way they've treated me. And I know very well that the baby's grandmother is not gonna, I call them babies, they're like 5 and 4, but how the grandmother is not gonna take accountability for her behavior. So it's still, there wasn't a solution. So then I was thinking right now on how all my life it's just been survival, not living. My survival instincts automatically kick in, and it is very exhausting to try to survive day by day. Another thing that I mentioned to her is like, look, I have been through so much already. I don't have a family, Both my parents are gone. My siblings are not around for me like they should be. My only family are my kids, and you have one of them. I am merely trying to deal with the aftermath. That is why I go to counseling. And I didn't tell her that because, I want sympathy or anything. I'm being real. I'm being honest. And it seems that not too many appreciate honesty nowadays. So I'm sitting here thinking about the whole entire day again. And I'm thinking, man, all of my life I have been surrounded with people that have gaslighted me. And I've said this before in another video. But imagine going through life with people telling you, get over it. My feelings are more important than yours. Everything's going peachy for me. I don't know what you're complaining about. Get over it. Grow up. Always bumping into people in my life, including family, that don't seem to grasp the concept that I am different. I am not one of them. Things worked out for them. Things worked out for my siblings. They were all out of the house and married by the time I came along. And they did very well for themselves. They had both of my parents. They had the luxury and the honor of having both of my parents in their life that helped them grow. I ended up with one parent that did not want me. Let me make that clear. If abortion would have been an option back then for her and she could afford it, she probably would have aborted me. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. She should have. And I even remember telling her one of the times where she was physical with me. I was a teenager and she was beating the ever-living shit out of me. And I told her, why did you have me if you never loved me? Why didn't you just throw yourself on the ground, go trip somewhere, go throw yourself down some stairs somewhere? Why did you have me? Why didn't you abort me? I would have been better off. Maybe we could have done this life over again. I would have come back to a different family because we don't even get to pick our families when we're born. And that sucks. But just let me bring the receipt because I know YouTube works only with receipts. As a child, I must have been about 7 or 8 years old, playing on the living room floor. My mom was laying on the couch. She wasn't having a very good day. I was trying to talk to her. She was ignoring me. Now, as a child, you don't understand why you're being ignored, why your mother is not responding to you. You see that she is awake, and you're talking to her, and she's not responding. So I said, Why aren't you talking to me? Talk to me. Continue to ignore me. And I kept saying, Mom, why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you talking to me? And she responded with, I don't love you. I wish I never had you. Those are words that you never, ever forget. Ever. People around me do not understand those words that were spoken to me. People around me do not understand and grasp the concept. And I know this for a fact because one time the church buddy and I were talking outside of church when we used to meet out of church to connect. I was explaining to her about how my mother had an affair and that's where I came from, and how my mother kept me separate from my siblings, and she couldn't get it. But why? But why? Mothers are supposed to be loving. I don't understand why she would do that to you. That just doesn't sound right. But why? But why? That's exactly what she said, and that's exactly what she sounded like. And I'm standing there like, oh my God, she doesn't get it. Obviously, she was born into a family that did accept her, that does celebrate her, that do love her. She don't understand what it's like to grow up in a family where you were not loved. How else do you want me to tell you, lady? And I know it's not her fault, but this is the thing. With people that I'm surrounded by, that's the thing they do not get. I was never poured with love, with encouragement, with positivity. What was always poured into me was doubt, hate, insecurity, and I never got to experience the other side of that, if that makes any sense, to this day. So whenever I have that problem of pulling back, that is my way of protecting myself, protecting my peace. That is my way of telling you, no, you know what? You're not going to ruin that day for me. You're not going to ruin my life for me. You're not going to ruin whatever the situation is. Maybe it's wrong. I don't know. But that is my way to protect myself. And whenever I am among people that is a group, to top it off, I also deal with social anxiety. I cannot even be on a 3-way call because my anxiety, my social anxiety kicks in. And automatically I start getting all these thoughts. Oh, well, what if they're like talking about you right after you hang up with them? And they're going to talk about you. What if they really don't like you and they're just trying to be nice by including you? And what if you don't have anything funny to say, or give them this big dramatic story that they want to hear, and they're going to get bored of you? So rather than having to explain myself, I just pull away. And some people, they take that as me being weird, of me being the problem. And I kind of learned to live with that. But I never learned living with being told that I am the problem. Even though that was spoken to me at a very young age, like I just stated, I still can't accept it. And it's not that I'm in denial. It's just that my survival instinct in me does not want to accept it. So going to counseling and being put all these labels on me and medical terms, it's forcing me to have to accept that I am the problem, that maybe everything that happened was really nothing and I should just get over it and go on with my life and just act like that it just didn't happen. Even though that's not what the counselor is saying, but that is how my mind works. It's already been conditioned to work that way. It is programmed to work that way. You talk about MK Ultra, that's exactly what it is. You could call it that, in fact, from a very young age. I have never met anybody else close to how I felt in my family until I found one person on the internet that was hurting worse than I was. And I understood them completely. Nobody else did. And that's the problem with society now. If you don't understand something, then why do you challenge it? Why do you fight it? But you're very quick to pick on those that you know are vulnerable. It's like you could smell it. You know who to pick on. You know who to go after. You can just smell it on them. You can see it by their demeanor, how they're walking. Are they walking with their head down or up? You look into their eyes and they look weak. They look like they've been through some shit. I have no support system outside of counseling. I just go to counseling and come back home to my reality again. I have no close friends that can help me through this. I could just escape with. not even to go for coffee down the street. Nothing, nothing, nothing. It's me. It's all me. And it's all up to me to get myself better, to pick myself up. And let me tell you, when you've been doing that for years, it is fucking exhausting. And that's another thing these people around me don't understand. They're exhausting to me, and it's exhausting for me. Nobody wants to be inconvenienced. In other words, I'm having such a great life. I'm planning a wedding. I'm planning a vacation, a cruise. I'm buying new furniture. I'm buying a house. Ew. You have problems? Oh my God. Don't get too close. I might catch it. Am I wrong? Am I wrong to describe it like that? Am I wrong to say that all you need is to put a mask on next? Because you don't want to catch what I have, which is trauma? Speaking of trauma, even my husband says that I have PTSD, and I do. There are some times that I get triggered, and he notices it. If we're out somewhere and I hear a child crying, I become very distressed. I start thinking the worst. Did that parent just smack that child? Is the child hungry? I just think the worst, and I get worried. And so he literally has to pull me away from wherever we're at. He doesn't always do it. But I can't see a street animal. I cannot see a child crying, especially a baby. Because those survival instincts kick in again. You can't catch trauma from somebody. It's not contagious. So stop acting like it is. And what I was going to say is that I've heard a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot, just a couple of people that mentioned dealing with some trauma in their life, and they're the complete opposite of me. And I don't understand how that is. I don't know if they're suppressing everything and they got really good at it, but they come off really narcissistic to the point where they really love themselves and they want to show you themselves. I guess it's an age factor. If you're in your 20s and you're doing all that, then everybody understands Everybody feels sorry for the 20-year-old. They're young. They're just starting their life. And when you're my age, it's like, ugh, here we go again. Ugh. Why are you even telling us this? You don't have that far long to go anyway. You're going to die soon, so don't worry about it. Get over it. I hate to sound like that, but that's the impression that people give. That's all I have to say. I just wanted to get this off my chest because I know I can't be the only one. I just know it. I say this all the time, and I know I cannot be the only one going through something like this. There's got to be someone else. And unfortunately, that other person just hurt others. And they never got the help they needed. I'm getting the help that I need, but I'm also still getting hurt by others. All right. Thank you for listening if you made it this far. I'll try not to be such a Debbie Downer all the time. But again, thank you for listening.